Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Outdoor Tactics. My name is Robert. Today we're going to be talking about my budget-oriented turkey shotgun build that I've put together for the spring of 2024. So here is the overall build before we even get into it. Essentially the reason that I'm making this video and the reason I built out this shotgun is because whenever I looked online for resources on how to build out a turkey shotgun, it was a little bit overwhelming and it seemed like the sky was the limit on the stuff that you could do with them. I decided to try to throw one together and keep it as simple as possible. It seems like from most of my research that the way you build out a turkey shotgun can be exactly as complicated as you make it, meaning that you can decide to go very simplistic and get great performance out of a simple, affordable build, or you can go sky's the limit and get admittedly more capability out of a much more complicated and expensive rig. Other than the optic, this is an extremely simple build, and we're going to get right into it and go from muzzle to buttstock for every single piece that I've thrown on here and talk about why. So before we get too far down the line here, I got to talk about the base shotgun. This is a Mossberg 500 field in 20 gauge with a 26-inch barrel. It takes up to 3-inch shells. Real simple build. It's the standard gold trigger model from back in the day. And I bought this thing used at a gun shop for sub $300. I think it was $270 out the door with tax. That's super cheap for getting into a pretty high quality, base model Mossberg 500s are time tested, trusted, and good quality firearms for sure. This one is the standard black with walnut furniture model. Most of that walnut furniture has been camo taped, as you can see, but here on the pump you can see the original furniture color, and they're just reliable, good shotguns. Essentially the story with this shotgun, I walked into that gun store, saw it on the used rack. I was barely old enough to even start buying firearms yet, and it fit my bill as a small game shotgun, but it had the modular choke tube attachments. It was, ported up front for whatever reason, and it was just an all-around good shotgun. So I purchased it, took it out on a squirrel hunt like a day or two later, shot a squirrel with it, and then it lived in my safe until now, which is probably like half a decade since then at least. But I've gone ahead and added some accessories to it that make it a better turkey shotgun than it was when I first bought it. So let's get into parts and pieces, and we'll start at the muzzle with the choke tube. So chokes are very important for turkey shotguns. That's what's going to constrict your pattern down to make hitting them in the head or base of the neck out at longer ranges easier. Anything less than a full choke, really, you're going to struggle with putting turkeys down fast and ethically. So this is the True Glow Gobble Stopper. Side note, if you ever want to have fun on Sportsman's Warehouse or something, go into the turkey section and read the title of any turkey hunting accessory. They're always hilarious, and I hope they're paying their marketing guys a lot for the naming conventions. But this is the Gobble Stopper from True Glow. It's not an overly long or obnoxious choke at all. It's about mid-level for as tight of a pattern it's going to throw. There are definitely models like the Headbanger, which are quite a bit longer than this and are going to get you a tighter pattern out at longer ranges. But I wanted something in that sort of mid-range where it's not going to throw the smallest pattern known to man, but it's also going to tighten up that pattern to make 40-yard shots pretty darn easy, and those closer range 20, 15 even yard shots easy as well, because that pattern isn't going to be so constricted that a turkey moving its head is going to dodge a large amount of it and possibly be less ethical and make for a less clean kill on that bird. So this is right in the pocket for where I want it. It's tight enough so that out at 40 we're still very lethal, but inside at 20 it's not so small with very little peppering around the edges that I'm running into issues where you might just straight up miss at close range. That's the choke tube taken care of. We'll move back here behind the muzzle. This did come with a factory bead as well as a bead down the middle of the rib. It helps that sight radius out a lot to have, instead of just indexing it off the top of the rib, you can index it in reference to another bead on the rib as well, and that helps out a lot. I've gone ahead and removed the rear bead because we are running an optic here. 26-inch barrel from the factory, obviously 20 gauge, and it is ported from the factory as well. These ports help cut down on a bit of recoil, which again, it's just 20 gauge, but having them there certainly doesn't hurt anything. And then as we move back, we will get into the magazine tube, which I believe holds 5 from the factory. You're gonna have to check your local regulations on how many shells you're allowed to load into your shotgun during turkey season, and also if you need a plug to make it incapable of carrying a high amount of shells, but that is state by state. I'll leave that research up to you. As you can see, most of the shotgun is wrapped with this camo form tape, and the barrel itself is no exception. This stuff is great. It's a good alternative to my usual way of camouflaging guns, which is just taking a can of flat green spray paint and having too much spare time and then just destroying all resale value of all my firearms. But with this one, I wanted to leave it able to go back to its original condition with the nice clean walnut furniture and the blued finish on the receiver, barrel, magazine tube, and all that. Standard Mossberg 500 trigger. It's the old school gold plated one that people complain about for seemingly no reason. I think it looks fine. I know that the gold finish is nice for wear resistance and corrosion resistance, so I'm good with that. 2-position safety, with a little red dot on the tang to show you that you are in fire versus safe. That's great. I love tang located safeties. I've been using them since I was a kid, and being able to shoulder the being able to shoulder the shotgun and manipulate the safety very easily right in front of my eye is very useful for me. We're going to skip over the red dot for right now and move straight back into the stock. So this stock is just the standard walnut furnitured stock that comes on every Mossberg 500 unless you get like the synthetic stock version. And I've added a little cheek riser. And this is just some pretty thick and dense EVA foam from like 3M or whatever competitor companies that sticks onto the stock, and then I just go ahead and wrap that camoform tape around the edge. When you add a dot or any optic to your shotgun, it's obviously going to sit higher than the bead at the front, which means that your cheek is going to be too low. And I always ended up getting like a chin weld or like a jawbone weld instead of a cheek weld on my shotgun, which was not super comfortable and not super repeatable. So I went ahead and built up the stock to give it a little bit of a cheek pad so I don't have to worry about having issues getting my head up into the window of the dot. So let's get into the red dot sight, which has obviously been sort of a new age idea to throw into shotguns, but I mean, it's been happening for a while, but it's becoming very mainstream in recent years. This is a SIG Romeo 5 red dot sight with a 2 MOA center dot. For a budget dot, it's an extremely high performer. It has shake-awake technology, which means that after it doesn't detect motion for so long, it will shut itself off to save battery, and then when it does detect motion, it'll turn right back on. I love that feature for any sight that I need to rely on in the field where I might not be around batteries or a large supply of batteries to refresh it. And that's been great. The 2 MOA dot is great because 2 MOA dot means it's about 2 inches wide at 100 yards. This is small enough to be placed on a turkey's head at 40 yards, which is it's gonna be about an inch at 40 yards, 40, 50 yards. A 1-inch circle on a turkey's head is an extremely fine aiming point, and with the large window around that sight, you're also able to just see the body language of that turkey and understand the overall situation that you're in. It's also meant to be shot with both eyes open so that you're able to sort of perceive the foreground of what you're looking at with your off eye, whether you're right or left eye dominant. You're able to just take in what's happening in your environment with your left eye and just perceive that dot through the window with your right, put the dot on your target, squeeze the trigger, and place that shot. Red dots are also parallax free, so it doesn't matter where my head is placed on this shotgun. As long as I can see the dot, that is where my shot pattern is going. I don't have to worry about getting the same cheek weld every time on a front bead. There are some cons to running red dots, one of which is you're now dependent on batteries for your sighting system. Unless you have some sort of quick disconnect mount, this is always going to block your front bead, and it won't be a sighting system that you can use in conjunction with it. They just can't get that low. Secondarily, now you have a mechanical offset between your chamber, meaning your bore, where your shot comes out, and where you are looking through your sight. This means that if you have something in front of you like brush or a log or some sort of a heavy limb, and you are looking through your red dot with one eye closed, and you can just see through this circle, you might not see a limb below your bore that your shot is going to mostly impact. You might think that your shot's clear from looking through the dot, but it's actually not clear just below that sight picture. Other than that downside, I really can't think of any other negatives to not go with a red dot. The point shooting ability of a 1X red dot is pretty much unrivaled in my opinion. So with all this talk out of the way about the features and what I've thrown on this shotgun, the question still remains, how does it pattern? Does it shoot well? And for me, I'm getting very ethical shot patterns out to 40 yards. I'll go ahead and run some footage for you in the background here as I talk about it, but at 20 yards, I'm getting a very tight pattern with a little bit of speckling around the outside edge. That's nice because if my shot placement is not absolutely perfect or that bird moves its head at the last second right as my shot's breaking, the overall pattern width is still big enough to encapsulate that movement and hopefully still catch it with a large amount of pellets at close range and put that bird down fast. Out to 30 yards, we're getting a nice heavy cluster of pellets right in the center of my aiming point with a little bit more spread, and we're getting into a pattern that's going to be hitting the body, the base of the neck, and obviously the point of the head if that is where I'm aiming. And then out to 40 yards, we're still getting plenty of pellets in the head and neck, but we are starting to spread out to a pattern that's starting to not make me nervous, but definitely make me think twice about taking a 45 or 50-yard shot. I think I'm going to cut my ethical range off at 40 with this shotgun just out of respect for the game that I'm trying to harvest. I definitely do not want to be making any borderline shots, borderline unethical or low confidence shots with this shotgun, especially because it's 20 gauge. They have less pellets coming down that bore at a slower velocity, which means that every pellet really does count. With a 12 gauge, you're going to have a lot more pellets coming down the bore and filling out that pattern a little bit more at those extended ranges. You start to factor in things like TSS loads, where the pellets are getting smaller and more dense and getting more penetration, and you start to maximize that patterning of any shotgun on the market. For this one, since this is a budget-oriented shotgun, I have not gone with TSS shells. I have gone with Remington Nitro Turkey 3-inch 20-gauge shells. These have been sort of a standardized shell that a lot of other shotgun shells get compared to. The Remington Nitro Turkey is always able to be found on shelves. It's very available. It's very common. You can find it everywhere. And that's kind of where I went with it. In the spirit of keeping this simple and keeping this budget-friendly, I have gone with the Remington Nitro Turkeys. These are 3-inch shells going at 1,185 feet per second out of a full-length barrel, which we do have here, and they're pushing 1.25 ounces of shot, and that shot size is size 5. Small enough to be able to send a lot of projectiles down range and fill out a pattern, but still plenty big enough to give us the penetration we need, especially with the hardened lead material they use. That's going to put down turkeys inside of 40 just fine. So all in all, we're getting into the game for sub $300 for the shotgun itself, and then these Romeo 5 red dots are about $120 full price. Do not pay full price for these red dots. They go on clearance so often that it's ridiculous. If you are looking into getting into one of these and you have time to wait, save yourself a little bit of money and wait for them to go on sale for like sub $90 or like 80 bucks. Put them on shotguns, obviously, ARs, AKs, lever guns, and big bore cartridges. They've shook all of it off, and they've been great red dots for me. Love the Romeo 5s from SIG. Without the dot, you're down to about $325, which is a very cheap price to be getting into turkey hunting for. Obviously, you can do it for less, but not by much. So with the performance testing out of the way, the patterns being understood, and a maximum range sort of mentally set in my subconscious, this shotgun is ready for the turkey woods. If you're interested in watching me take this shotgun out into the field and test it on live targets, I will be bringing those videos to you very soon. At the time of this video airing, I think we are 1 week out from Ohio's South Zone opener, and then 2 weeks out from their North Zone opener. So we're going to be getting in the woods after some gobblers very soon, and hopefully put one down with this budget-oriented shotgun. So with all that being said, that's pretty much all I've got for you. Like I said, if you would like to see the videos of me hunting turkeys with this shotgun, feel free to subscribe to the channel down below so that you are notified when those videos drop. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching. That's all I've got for you for right now. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.
What are you doing? What are you doing?